So this is the second part of the looking at this Jesus calming the storm. And I'll read the scriptures again because this is the inspired part. My words, you can take them or leave them. But it says, John chapter 4 verses 35 through to 41. On that day, when evening came, he says to them, let's go over to the other side. And leaving the crowds, they took him along with them in the boat, just as he was, and other boats with him. And there arose a fierce gale of wind, and the waves were breaking over the boat so much that the boat was already filling up. And Jesus himself was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him and said to him, Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? And he got up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, Hush, be still. And the wind died down, and it became perfectly calm. And he said to them, Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith? And they became very much afraid, and said to one another, Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? Now, the Lord Jesus had said, let us go over to the other side. This was the idea of the Lord Jesus. And these disciples had thought, well, Jesus, you are tired. You could do with a break. You can sleep in the boat. We're tired. But yeah, let's get away from these thousands and thousands of people. Good idea. Let's go over to the other side. This is the idea of the Lord Jesus. And as they go, they are going in God's will, his will. Jesus said, let's go over, and they've gone over. And as they go, they've come from a time of great blessing. The Lord Jesus has been doing amazing and wonderful miracles amongst so many people. He's been teaching them. They've heard his voice. They've been amazed at his teaching. They get in the boat, and Jesus stops speaking. He falls asleep. And they're in God's will and God's plan, and suddenly there's this terrible, terrible storm. And so often we people as believers naively say, oh, if it's God's plan, if it's God's will, everything will work out. Well, it didn't for these disciples on this particular day. They went, and there was this terrible storm. And Jesus led them to this place so that he can teach them. And it is, I'm sure if you've been a Christian for a little while, you find that God leads you into crises so that he can teach you, so that he can teach you things. And here he wanted to teach the disciples something very wonderful. And that was that he was the Lord of all the elements, of the wind and of the waves and everything else. Up to this point, whenever he had done a miracle, it had been in people. And his words had mixed with their faith, and people had been delivered. Often Jesus would say, by your faith, you are made whole. But here, and they would hear his words, and something would happen within them, whether it be part of their physicality or part of their distress they had in their own minds. Jesus would deliver them, but they would hear it, and something would happen. Here, there wasn't any human to hear what they said or to obey. Certainly wouldn't be psychosymptomatic or anything like that. Jesus spoke the word, and the storm calmed immediately. He said, "Hush, be still, and the wind died down, and it became perfectly calm." God had a plan and a lesson for these disciples, that he was Lord over everything, not just over people, but over the whole of creation. And he could speak a word, and he could cause this terrible gale which was going to kill them, he could cause it to stop and to calm down. Jesus is Lord. He is Lord over every single circumstance that we face, every single problem, every issue that we have, whether it involves people or not. Jesus is Lord over these, and these disciples did the right thing, and they called upon his name, and the Lord delivered them.